I'm Warren Sprouse. Welcome to the Bible Forum. We're here every Sunday night from 8 until 10 p.m., sometimes a little longer. The Bible Forum is sponsored. The parent organization for the Bible Forum is a company called Alternatives, Biblical Counseling and Education. It's a fairly wide, broad umbrella under which we do a lot of educating and some other stuff along the way. I want to talk to you tonight about what you think may be a mental disorder, which now apparently the psychological community wants you to think of as a medical disorder. Huh? They're defining this as, quote, a disturbance of function, structure, or both, resulting from a genetic, not your fault, or embryonic, not your fault, failure in development, or from exogenous, the last time you heard that word, exogenous are things that occur outside your physiology, things that impact you. The exogenous factors in development, or from things like poison, trauma, or disease. That's all from the freemedicaldictionary.com. That's what they're saying. Now, another website, psychcentral.com, says, quote, a mental disorder results from problems people experience with their mind and their mood. Ask your psychologist, psychiatrist, your doctor, your counselor to define mind. You will be illuminated and perhaps set on a firmer foundation. At least you know what they're talking about. Psych Central goes on to say they are not well understood in terms of their causes. Can you fix something if you don't know how it broke? But the symptoms of mental illness are scientifically valid and well known. A list of common disorders are alcohol substance abuse. I thought you had to drink the stuff. Well, you do. But once you reach the stage of alcoholic, that's a disorder. That's not irresponsibility. Anxiety disorders. Some of that is chemical, isn't it? Fix the chemistry. Some of that is behavior, environment. ADHD, adult attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. They threw hyperactivity in several decades ago. Bipolar disorder, major depressive episode. Hypomanic episode, manic episode, depression, eating disorders, a generalized anxiety disorder. Can you say peach basket? An obsessive compulsive disorder. Then there's opioid use disorder symptoms and panic disorder. Postpartum depression is now in this category. Post-traumatic stress disorder, schizophrenia. Seasonal affective disorder. Social anxiety phobia. These 21 disorders are simply the most common. But there are hundreds of these things. And the use of the word disorder is deliberate. It implies something indigenous to you and something over which you have little or no control, meaning you didn't go out and contract this. Alcoholism, it's a disorder. Drug addiction, it's a disorder. Politically, mainstream media outlets are now promoting a story that claims therapists are treating more patients for anxiety because of the words and the actions of President Donald Trump. So who gets this disorder? They're not just upset, they're disordered. They're not just angry, they have a disorder. They're not just outraged, they have a disorder. They're not just irresponsibly going about destroying other people's property or screaming obscenities in somebody's ear or stopping business traffic or whatever. They have a disorder. It's not their fault. Whose fault is it? Trump! Yeah. You got a 2-year-old in the house? That's his logic. What do you do with it? The alleged disorder supposedly affects both Trump supporters and non-supporters and is related to some of his policies and his tweets. In a piece that sounds more like satire, Canada's CBC News, Canada Broadcasting Company, cites several therapists who say their patients are afraid Trump may blow us all up. Quote, there is a fear of the world ending. End of quote. According to Washington, D.C. therapist Elizabeth Lamott. She told the news outlet, quote, it's very disorienting and constantly unsettling. I can picture her wandering around in her office just worried about this, can't you? The supposed stress and collective anxiety is referred to as Trump anxiety disorder, about which there is no official diagnosis. But still, Lamott says signs of the disorder have been increasing since the 2016 election. She claims the symptoms mimic those seen in patients who were raised by a parent with a personality disorder. Those patients typically show behaviors such as grandiosity, excessive attention seeking, and severe lack of empathy. How could a president be responsible for that? How could a parent be responsible for that? Well, parents set patterns. Parents create environments. Parents enable one form of behavior or attitude while discouraging others. So now, when the adult child of such parents exhibits the same destructive patterns, they have a disorder. They don't have a wrong world or life view. Their behavioral problem is not their fault. In fact, it's not even a behavioral problem. A problem implies that they know not to do it and they're doing it anyway, or that they somehow are overtly, purposely doing this. No, they have a disorder. Maybe even a mental disorder. I'm still waiting for somebody to define mental in terms of all of this medical and physical and psychological stuff. Whether it's conscious or not, Lamott said, I think we look to the President of the United States as a psychological parent. That's what you do, right? Well, she's not alone. According to published reports, clinical psychologist Jennifer Panning of Illinois wrote a 2017 essay on Trump anxiety disorder. She says the disorder causes patients to feel a loss of control and helplessness, fretting about what's happening in the country. Did you hear it? The emphasis here is on feel. It isn't that they have lost control. It isn't that they are helpless. But they feel they are. Why? Because they're not the president. But they never were. Did they feel that way when other presidents did things they didn't like? Those supposedly afflicted by the disorder are also spending too much time on social media. The story goes on to rehash Twitter word battles in January between Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, even though the two have met and appear to have made up. or at least on more amicable terms. But similar fears were rekindled last week when Trump tweeted to Iranian President Hassan Rouhani in all caps, "Never ever threaten the United States again, or you will suffer consequences the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. We are no longer a country that will stand for your demented words of violence and death. Be cautious." One group of Americans learn of this tweet and say, "About time." The others are cowering in the corner, worried that Trump is going to unleash a global atomic war. Which of these groups do you think is more in touch with reality? The votes would no doubt be strongly in favor of the fearful. And this is what 50 years or more of psychological training has brought us. It may be that the enemies of America, democracy, anything you can think positive, good, Christianity, that these people have grown up thinking that America is a pushover. We can say and do anything we want. And we've got a man now who is setting the record straight. He's doing it stark. He's doing it dramatic. He's doing it angrily. And he's doing it in all caps. Oh my goodness. And it isn't something I would do. But maybe he feels like it's the shortest road to safety, that people would know that there's a crazy man in the White House and he's just allowed to push the button. Might work. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. And I think what he's doing, as much as it's antisocial and discouraging, it's embarrassing many times. He knows he's working with bullies, and he knows it works. Another patient reported that she constantly checks social media over anxiety about what Trump is saying. Trump derangement disorder. She's worried about what he's saying all the time. Anything else? Oh, yeah. Jamie Gale, a Trump supporter in Ohio, said her symptoms are similar to the fear of the unknown and unfamiliar, something she felt after September 11 terrorist attacks. She said, quote, "Now I'm scared of getting pounced on by somebody who doesn't like me because of Trump." John Hawkins, a therapist in Mississippi, was among other therapists who joined the conversation. He said his LGBTQ patients are stressing over the possibility that the Trump administration could void their marriages. Do you see it? A mental disorder is not at all like a medical disorder, although the terms imply they are. A mental disorder is contracted by influences over time, largely influences you dabble in. You put yourself in those places. A medical disorder is contracted largely due to genetic makeup. You don't go out and get or encourage a medical disorder. So, are these people disabled? Or are they just dysfunctional, socially, emotionally? And are they this way due to influences beyond their control? Or is it because of their own mental, emotional weaknesses? And why? Did their parents not prepare them for real life? Real life says you are born, you grow, you get old, you die. I die? Yes. You are born to die. And in between, there's a world of misery. Disease, divorce, angry people, accidents, poverty. And you think people who are wealthy and live in splendor have it easy? No. They're more paranoid than anybody else. But their parents didn't prepare them. And that's because that's not a parental responsibility anymore. That's society's responsibility. That's the school's responsibility. The church's responsibility. It's the government's responsibility. Or if all else fails, because not everybody's in tune to the government, the school, or the church, it's the media. These people are not, these organizations, these groups are not responsible by fiat, but simply by parental negligence, born out of ignorance. Their parents were never parents. Out of parental inability, in many cases unwillingness, in some cases by design. How can you have mom and dad working 40 hours a week plus transportation back and forth, and the children grow up stable, fully formed, understanding emotionally and mentally and familially and all balanced and every? You can't. It isn't going to work like that. We're convincing entire generations that it can work. And the experts are creating more and more dysfunction and disorder that we can now add a pill or therapy for the rest of your life. 45-minute hour for $80. Getting wealthy when a parent at home could have fixed it in one generation. Are these people disabled or are they just dysfunctional? Look at the young adult population. Top colleges around the country are reporting that over 20% of incoming freshmen claim to be disabled. Does that mean they can't walk? No. Does that mean they can't see? No. What it means is they can't function in society. Now, either that's true or they're faking it because it works. But either way, we got 20% of freshmen like that. 22% at Pomona College in California. 18% at Pitzer College in California. Vassar College in New York. Reed College in Oregon. And Mount Holyoke in Massachusetts. And 14% at Stanford. These are the percentage of students who consider themselves disabled at top universities around the country. Disabled means almost 1 in 5 students in every classroom is classified by school officials this way. Wait, in the first sentence, it's the students who consider themselves disabled. In the next sentence, it's the schools. Yeah. What you feel apparently is what you are. That's our new psychological society, the poor dears. In the old days, parents looked at these poor children and said to them, stand up, do right, get a grip. You don't want to do your homework, get out. Today, these same parents and these teachers say, "Aww," followed quickly by a suitable diagnosis, sometimes a medical professional, often psychologists, psychiatrists, or just the parents themselves, and a lot of money because these kids have a problem. Jan Collins Eaglin, the Claremont Consortium's Associate Dean of Students for Personal Success and Wellness, says that anxiety and stress are likely behind the increase in the number of disabled students. When was your life not been plagued by both of these? Anxiety and stress every day. It's called a job. It's called bills. It's called responsibility. And there ain't nobody holding you up. She says at Pomona we have extremely talented, bright students with very high expectations who are coming in with a good level of anxiety and are highly stressed. Our job here is to help them really thrive. I thought the educational system existed to teach, to prepare people for reality. Silly me. Despite the increase in the number of students that identify, remember that it's their diagnosis of themselves, as disabled, top school officials say that the rigor of the curriculum hasn't changed. The academic profile of Amherst's student population continues to strengthen and increase as it continues to diversify. Others still are upset at some advantages given to students who face certain types of anxiety. Some students who experience panic attacks receive special accommodations during SATs. Some were offered special distraction-free environments. Others were offered additional time to complete the exam. Miriam Kurtzig-Friedman, an attorney who writes about accommodations for standardized testing, says that certain accommodations defeat the very purpose of such tests. You're supposed to be able to do it under this pressure in this time frame. The reason we pay all this money for the test is so that we can compare someone from South Dakota with someone from California. If you keep muxing around with the standards, we're never going to know. And then we're going to ask ourselves, what are we paying for? And why? Oh, it's a very complex world when we begin to unravel the fabric of the society. There's no telling what you're going to get. All you got to do is look out the window. You can see it every day. I didn't make it this way. My children are 50 years old. As far as I know, their children are stable. Oh well.